Former National Prime Minister Jim Bolger will lead a government working group looking at setting up sector-wide collective negotiations. The plan is to set up fair pay agreements to be struck between unions and employers, setting minimum terms and conditions of employment for all workers in an entire industry or occupation. Here's our Deputy Political Editor, Chris Bramwell.
Under Jim Bolger's watch in the 1990s, the Controversial Employment Contracts Act was passed, which saw the end of compulsory unions and the deregulation of employer-employee bargaining. But now it appears he wants to get involved in a new form of collective bargaining.
What we're looking at really is what is fair.
Mr Bolger will lead a 9-person panel made up of representatives from business, unions, academia, hospitality and sport. He says he decided to take part because there's a sense out there that the world is no longer fair.
That some have made obscene wealth and some are missing out just about altogether. We try to look after the bottom by minimum wage rates, but it's the middle that seems to be almost forgotten. And I think what we have to do, and what the panel will try to do, 10 good people, is find some answers in this space.
Fair pay agreements would be industry or sector-wide, like the care and support workers settlement done under the former National-led government. So what's the difference between that kind of agreement and a multi-employer collective agreement? The Minister for Workplace Relations, Ian Lees-Galloway, explains.
Multi-employer collective agreements only involve the specific employers that are involved in the bargaining, whereas this will apply across an occupation or an industry. All employers, it will apply to all employers. It will also apply to all workers, unionised or not.
Ian Lees-Galloway says unlike existing collective bargaining, strikes and lockouts will not be permitted in negotiations for a fair pay agreement. He says there was some concern that if there was a form of industry-wide bargaining, there could be industry-wide industrial action, which would not be in anyone's best interests.
And there are other ways to deal with impasses and disagreements than just industrial action. That remains available for standard collective bargaining, multi-employer collective bargaining. Nothing's changing there. But for these particular agreements, they are special. They do represent a significant change in the way we do industrial relations in New Zealand, and we think we can do them without industrial action.
John Milford from Business New Zealand admits the businesses he represents do have some concerns about industry-wide bargaining.
Concerns around flexibility, ensuring that the flexibility is there for businesses to be able to interact with their employees, to make sure that the relationship is still strong there with their own employees in their own business. Cost, of course, cost is a concern. We want to ensure that all businesses can actually afford the outcomes, because if they can't afford the outcomes, then that's not a good thing for business.
John Milford says it's important that what comes out of the working group and the ensuing legislation is something that's supported by the majority of businesses and employees.
So we're going in with some concerns. Having said that, we're pleased to be part of the solution, because we're pleased to be around the table, because if we don't put our concerns there, then we can't stand on the outside and lob sort of hand grenades in.
The President of the Council of Trade Unions, Richard Wagstaff, says he doesn't imagine the agreements would cover sectors where there's already strong collective bargaining.
I doubt that we'll see industry standard agreements for nurses or for teachers or for a whole lot of workers who already have strong collectives. It would seem to me there's a mechanism there that's working. It's more likely to be in those industries where there isn't effective collective bargaining, like the care and support industry.
The working group will cost $300,000, the money coming out of existing Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment funding. The panel's expected to make recommendations to the Minister by the end of the year. Atu i te whare pāri mata mō te hōtaka o te ahi pōnei, ko Chris Bramwell ahau.